Good morning, everybody. Mike Naso here from IPR365.com with the latest on the tropics. And as we get in towards September 10th, that is the climatological peak of hurricane season, but we are only a couple of days into September, thus we would expect to see things rather active, and indeed they are. You can see we have Tropical Storm Lee bearing down on the coast of Louisiana. It has strengthened overnight, but it really is taking on subtropical characteristics. There's a trough interacting with it that is making it ingest dry air. You can see on the eastern side it looks very favorable. As a matter of fact, if I didn't show you the western side of the storm and you just saw the movement of the eastern side, if you didn't see what was on this end and I told you we had a system that was very dangerous bearing down on Louisiana, you might believe me, but then when I take that away and you see that this is almost half a system and everything's lopsided to the east, you realize that's not quite the case, but it could still be dangerous with rainfall. Remember, it is not the intensity of a storm that could cause flooding rains, it is the size and how fast it's moving, and right now Lee is a very large storm, at least with its rain shield coming into Louisiana and Mississippi, and it is moving slowly, therefore rain amounts up to 20 inches perhaps in areas of Louisiana. You can see Lee strengthening slightly overnight in contrast to Katia, Hurricane Katia out here, which became a hurricane again today, but might not even be one anymore. It is expected, though, to get in a bit better environment, and as it begins a turn that will most likely end up doing something like this, it will then intensify, perhaps even into a major hurricane. So we're going to have to wait and see. With Katia, you can see the troughiness in the western Atlantic. We are definitely getting more towards fall, and we'll have Lee actually interact with the cold front as it pulls on up, and he's going to be causing more rainfall for areas of the central and southern United States. Here's the latest on Lee as of 4 a.m. It was at 28.8 north, 91.9 west. Winds were up to 50, gusting to 65. It's not expected to become a hurricane, but we do have tropical storm watches from Sabine Pass on over to the Panhandle. It will be likely a moderate to a strong tropical storm when it makes landfall. Its current motion is north-northwest, only at about 5-6 miles an hour or so, and that's 995 millibars on the pressure. You can see it will eventually move inland in Louisiana and then take a track like that, and it could be anywhere within that cone as it interacts and becomes extratropical and cause a lot of issues with heavy rainfall. There's the model guidance and good agreement. Look at how clustered they are here. It is definitely going to Louisiana, is already having impacts there. When we take a look at Lee at this hour, you can see why it's not going to become a hurricane. It doesn't look like. Look at all that dry air pumping into the circulation center. This dry air is from the interaction with the trough and from westerly shear, southwesterly shear, and that is what's keeping the system from becoming a hurricane. Nonetheless, you can see it's bubbling, which means convection growing, rainfall, and that is the threat. Here's the latest radar out of areas of Slidell, Louisiana. Look at that. You can clearly see the center coming into view here just south of, say, Intercoastal City and areas here of Vermilion Bay. That's probably where we're going to see landfall. Anywhere Homa, Berwick, these areas will probably be near the core of the system, but because it's so large and lopsided and ill-defined, don't expect to be anything significant if you get in the. It's not like you have an eye and an eye wall. You have a lot of heavy rain, a lot of impacts far and away from the center, and that's what's currently impacting Louisiana. Look at this, into Mississippi, Alabama, even the Panhandle. If you're in Pensacola this morning, you're getting rain, and it's from Lee. New Orleans and Grand Isle, Baton Rouge, on the other hand, look at it. I'm going to zoom in. Look at the dark greens and the yellows and the oranges. And also, tornado warnings, severe weather. You often get tornadoes spinning up. We've had tornado warnings on and off here for southeastern Louisiana, getting hammered there. And keep in mind, any kind of storm tides or storm surges will be occurring in these marshy areas down here with the onshore flow as Lee continues to batter the coastline. Now, aside from Lee, I did want to touch on Hurricane Katia, and Hurricane Katia is a 5 a.m. Eastern Time. It was at 19.3 north, 55.1 west. Winds were only 75 gusting to 90, and it might not even be a hurricane anymore. It's moving northwest at about 10 miles an hour, 988 millibars, and you can see it is forecast to remain about where it is, maybe kind of go between tropical storm and minimal hurricane strength for the next 2 days or so, and then begin to strengthen and become a major hurricane by Wednesday, and then maybe begin to weaken again. Right now the track takes it pretty much northwest and then a little bend to the north-northwest at the end. There is some uncertainty as to how far west it gets before it turns, but right now it does not appear like it will make landfall on the east coast. Nonetheless, we'll have swells. Bermuda, you are not currently in the cone, but keep in mind you might be. Any little deviation to the right of the track could change things a whole deal, and if Katia ends up interacting with a stronger trough off the east coast and it turns more liberally to the right, then you would be dealing with liberally to the right. That's a contradictory statement, isn't it? Then it would end up being a significant threat to Bermuda. So you have to watch that very carefully. You can see most of the model guidance keeps it off the east coast of the U.S., but also keeps it away from Bermuda. So this one might pass just between the two, but nonetheless high swells from Katia over the next coming days. I did want to go to the shear map to let you know what's going on with the shear in Lee, because here's Lee is underneath this westerly wind shear. You can see very favorable winds streaming to the southwest towards the southern hemisphere to ventilate it, but on the other hand you have the shear cutting it off on the western side, giving it subtropical characteristics. Now as far as Katia is concerned, this has a mess of wind shear as it interacts, but a little bit lower shear out here, so it will have an opportunity to strengthen as it continues to move towards the west. I did want to show you real fast what the hurricane looks like. Doesn't even look like a hurricane, but it's trying. And we're going to keep an eye on Katia because high swells are already going to impact areas of the Lesser Antilles. I'm Mike Naso from IPR. That's the latest morning update on Lee and Katia. Hurricane Katia not looking all that great. Is likely to stay out at sea but still create high swells. Bermuda especially, keep an eye on it. And Lee, Tropical Storm Lee, will make landfall in Louisiana. How strong will it be? Probably a moderate to high-end tropical storm, but a lot of heavy rainfall, some that's already even occurring. I'm Mike Naso from IPR. I will see you next time.